What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, we're going to go through 6 players to avoid for your Game Week 1 drafts. There's also 9 bonus players at the end as well. I know some of you are going to disagree with some of these picks, so I'm going to give my reasoning. And if you do disagree, leave me a comment below. If you haven't already checked out Fantasy Football Hub, there is a link in the description below to get signed up for them as well. More to come on that later. Otherwise, let's jump into it. So let's start off with Kieran Trippier, last season's highest scoring FPL defender with 198 points. So that 6.5 million price tag is fully justified. He's playing for a team that's solid defensively, his attacking output is great, and he's decent for bonus. So why am I saying we should avoid him? Mostly because of the fixtures. Don't get me wrong, if I had to play him against Aston Villa at home in Game Week 1, it wouldn't worry me that much. But then you got Man City away, Liverpool at home, and Brighton away. 3 teams that are very good from an attacking perspective. Therefore, clean sheets are going to be hard to come by. And we know Trippier is great for assists. You look at those underlying numbers, 0.35 expected assists per 90 is excellent. But I'm not sure that outweighs the fixture run that they have. And after Game Week 4, the fixtures for Newcastle do get a lot better. They got Brentford at home in Game Week 5, Sheffield United away in Game Week 6, Burnley at home in Game Week 7, West Ham away, Crystal Palace at home, Wolves away, etc. The list goes on. There's plenty of potential there for clean sheets. And at that stage, it might be worth looking to bring Trippier in, but I'm not sure he's someone that we should be looking to start with. Can he get close to 198 points again? Possibly, but Newcastle do have Champions League to contend with as well this year, so we'll have to see how they cope with that. I just think there's enough against him to not start there at that 6.5 million price tag. And for 5 to 5.5 million, you can get quite a few defenders from other top 6 clubs as well. So I just don't think Trippier is worth going for in Game Week 1. So next up is Ben White, and I can't quite understand why FPL have priced him at 5.5 million, especially when you can get Zinchenko, Gabriel and Saliba for just 5 million. And those 3 players are just as secure for minutes, if not in some cases slightly better than Ben White. So I don't really see the reason to spend 0.5 million more. Yes, he got 2 goals, 5 assists last year, which was pretty decent, but his underlying numbers of 0.03 expected goals, 0.11 expected assists don't really scream super attacking defender. And obviously Arsenal have now signed Timber as well, who can play right back and right centre back, so he can cover different positions. And it's not necessarily going to be the case that Ben White doesn't start the season playing regularly, but if he is the right back and Timber can come on and play there as well, he may come off and get subbed early, possibly before 60 minutes as well. I've seen some people speculating that Timber might play right back, Ben White might move into one of the centre back positions, but surely that's not going to be for Saliba. And if it's for Gabriel, you're then taking out your left-footed left centre-back. So I don't really see it. I don't think there's any reason to spend 5.5 million on Ben White. Just pick one of the 5 million Arsenal defenders instead. My favourite right now is Gabriel. So happy to say that I have partnered with Fantasy Football Hub for the 2023-24 season. I would highly recommend checking them out. They've got loads of tools that can help you do better at FPL. The one that I think you're going to love is called My Team. That's coming this weekend. It's an AI team rating tool. And the best thing is it will rate your team for absolutely nothing. It's completely free. All you have to do is get signed up. There is a link in the description below. If you do want to sign up to their memberships, there's up to 50% off at the moment. They'll help you win your mini league, and if you don't, they'll give you your money back. You can't say fairer than that. There are terms and conditions that apply. I'll link them in the description below. But for the My Team tool, like I said, completely free. You just need to get signed up. Link in the description below. So let me say straight away, if you could guarantee me that Ferguson was going to get 5 to 6 starts in the first 6 game weeks, I'd probably put him straight in my FPL draft, because he's a quality player and he definitely has the talent to outscore that £6 million price tag. I would not be surprised if in a few years' time he's going for big money to one of the top 6 clubs. But right now, he's still only 18, and we've seen that Brighton have managed him quite carefully. He only played 90 minutes once last season, and that was on the last day of the season. Outside of that, he always got subbed off early and didn't always start. And the problem for Brighton is they've got a lot of attackers playing in his position. So there's Ferguson, Welbeck, Undav, and they've obviously signed João Pedro as well. Now, some of those players can play different roles. They could play with 2 forwards at once. One of them could play as the number 10. João Pedro could play on the left instead of Matoma. But there's a lot of competition, and longer term, they've also got Europa League to contend with as well. Now, we might start seeing a pattern at that point where certain players play in Europe, certain players play in the Premier League, and if Ferguson Ferguson is getting regular starts, then I'm very much interested, but I'm just not sure we can guarantee that right off the bat in game week 1. I would love him in the team because Luton at home is an enticing fixture. Wolves away, West Ham at home is not too bad either. But if he's not getting regular starts for those first 3 game weeks, then you're going into Newcastle at home and Man United away. That just looks like a bit of a problem for me. So, very talented player. I know everyone that's watching this who's Irish is really excited for the future, and I do think he's going to be great. But from an FPL perspective, I just think there's probably better options to go for in game week 1. Alright, let's talk about Andrew Robertson, 6.5 million Liverpool defender. They've got Chelsea away in game week 1, Newcastle away in game week 3. So 2 of the first 3 fixtures are not ideal for clean sheets. Outside of that, it's Bournemouth at home, Villa at home, Wolves away, West Ham at home. That's what makes up the first 6 game weeks. I'm not completely put off going for a Liverpool defender. I'm definitely going to consider Trent Alexander-Arnold, but part of the reasoning for that is how good he is from an attacking perspective. It's not quite the case for Robertson. And a big part of whether we choose him or not in game week 1 or even think about him is going to depend on how Klopp sets up in pre-season. If they continue with this strategy to have 3 centre-backs and Trent moving into midfield, then that does make Robertson a lot less exciting of an FPL option. We've seen in seasons gone past that he's done very well to keep up with Trent, bombing up and down that left wing, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case while he's playing as the left centre-back. Now, to be fair, over the season, his expected goals per 90 were 0.04, expected assists were 0.2, and I did have a look at the time period for when they went to that new setup, and he did still get a couple of assists, so it's not like he can't get any whatsoever. He's just nowhere near as exciting when he's playing in that kind of role, and when he costs 6.5 million, I find that hard to justify. I'd almost rather have Van Dijk for 0.5 million less, or even go to that 5 to 5.5 million bracket. So at some point, we might consider Robertson. We shouldn't forget that he's now 1.5 million cheaper than Trent Alexander-Arnold, but unless he continues to be an attacking fullback, I'm not sure I'm going to want him in my FPL team for game week 1. Alright, put your hands up if you're still hurting from picking Isak over Wilson towards the end of last season. I've got to put my own hand up. It did not go well whatsoever. And we know how good Isak can be. At some point, he's going to be well worth paying 7.5 million for. But you'd want to be sure he's going to get minutes in that number 9 position. And the problem is he's got a lot of competition from Callum Wilson, who's also excellent in that role. Now, they can play together, but when they do, Callum Wilson usually goes through the middle and Isak plays on the left, and he's just not as effective there. We didn't see a huge amount of games with them playing together, so maybe it was just a small sample. Maybe if Isak plays off the left this season, he'll be great, but I'd want to see that before I commit to buying him. And I just think if Wilson's fit and Isak's fit, there's too much worry about minutes. Obviously, if one of them gets injured, the other one's minutes as a number 9 goes right up, and then it's a different conversation. But as things stand, the potential for Isak to not consistently play number 9 and the opening fixtures they've got means I'm probably just going to avoid him for game week 1. So Gabriel Martinelli is probably the most controversial player on this list. I did and ah about whether or not to include him. I know a lot of you are going to disagree. That's perfectly fine. Leave me a comment below. But I do think he's a player that I'm probably going to avoid in game week 1, mostly because he's 8 million. So for 0.5 million more, I can get Odegaard or Saka. From an expected goals and expected assist perspective, they're all quite similar. And Saka's obviously got penalties as well. But more importantly, I think Odegaard and Saka are just better for minutes. And I know we've been here before. Last season there was a period where Martinelli started getting subbed early. There was one game where Trossard started ahead of him. A lot of us sold him. Then he went on a run of starts, loads of goals, loads of assists. And I'm not saying that he's only going to get like 2 or 3 starts in the opening 6 game weeks, but I do think he's susceptible to being subbed early, more so than an Odegaard or a Saka. And also, if we think back to last season, I think there was certain circumstances why we kind of got that wrong. At the time he was being subbed early, Nketiah was playing through the middle and Trossard was obviously cover on the left, but then Nketiah got injured, Trossard started playing as a number 9, Jesus was also injured, which left Martinelli just having that left wing spot to himself. And when Jesus came back, Arsenal managed him very carefully, so when he had to be subbed early, it was Trossard that played as the number 9, which again left Martinelli just to play in that left wing position. If we go into next year and Jesus is fully fit, they've got Nketiah, they've got Balogun, who can play up front. Havertz can also play there. You don't necessarily need Trossard to play in that position quite so much. So if he's going to get subbed on, where is it? Probably left wing. Now, I might have this completely wrong. Like I said, disagree with me. But if we're talking about minutes between Martinelli, Odegaard and Saka, I think the latter two are slightly better. I think their underlying numbers are decent enough. And like I've said, Saka's got penalties. So Martinelli, great player. He's probably going to start the first 6 games and absolutely smash it now. But for me, because of that price point, I'd rather just pay 0.5 million for a different Arsenal midfielder. Alright, just some bonus players for you as well. So we'll start off with Nick Pope at 5.5 million. Similar reasons to Trippier that I don't like those opening fixtures for Newcastle. To be fair, you need to think a little bit longer term with goalkeeper because it's not a position you want to spend a lot of transfers on. But if I'm spending 5.5 million, I'd probably rather go for Alisson or Edison. In my case, I'm probably just going to spend 4.5 or 5 million. Cancelo, £6 million Man City defender, obviously went on loan to Bayern halfway through last season. Not sure if he's going to remain at the club. If he does, I don't think he's going to be in Pep Guardiola's good books. And interestingly, and I am very much paraphrasing here, Pep said something like he wants defenders that can defend. He's kind of realised that's what he needs to succeed, and I'm not sure Cancelo fits that bill. So probably not worth paying that money for. Tyrone Mings, 4.5 million. A lot of people like him because of that price point. Obviously, Moreno for Villa is 5 million. But is he going to be nailed on? It's a weird situation where they're looking to buy Pau Torres, who's also left-footed. So they're going to have 2 left-footed centre-backs. I'm not quite sure about that. So Mings' minutes might be a problem next year. He's also not that attacking. You can get Matty Cash for the same price as well. Ivan Toney obviously suspended for a long time. 8 million is a fair price for him. And when he's back and available, then we're definitely going to look at him when the fixtures are right for Brentford, but definitely not for game week 1. Declan Rice and basically any defensively minded midfielder, just avoid. There's no points for tackles, interceptions, blocks and stuff like that. So it's only goals and assists. They just don't get enough. So you can just avoid all of them. Jadon Sancho, 7 million at Man United. Minutes definitely not secure. As a Man United fan, I'm still hopeful at some point he'll show us what he's truly capable of. But if Man United sign a striker, obviously they're going to play number 9, Rashford on the left, Anthony on the right, Bruno Fernandes or Mason Mount as the number 10. And by the way, I don't mean that Bruno Fernandes is just not going to play. He would just play a little bit deeper if that was the case. There's not really room for Jadon Sancho as well. If he goes to another club, maybe it'll be worth paying 7 million, but not as things stand. Mudryk, I just think his minutes will be an issue at the start of the season. He obviously plays on the left. That's Sterling's best position as well. And unless we see something different in pre-season, I think Pochettino is going to choose Sterling with Mudryk coming on. Obviously, maybe playing in other competitions and maybe just slowly integrating him into the team. But pre-season may well tell us a different story. Martinez and basically any Man United defender that's not Luke Shaw, I just don't think is worth paying for, even though they're 0.5 million cheaper. Martinez, when fit, is absolutely nailed, but very little attacking threat. And the other players that do have some attacking threat, like Dalot, I was going to say Wan-Bissaka, but probably not. They're just not nailed on anyway. So Luke Shaw is the defender to buy at Man United. And then Surridge, 4.5 million forward. He's currently the highest owned. The problem with that, and we saw it, I think, with Greenwood last year at Leeds, is when they're that highly owned, they tend to get sold a bit more as the game weeks go, and then they start dropping in price. So it might be worth going if you're looking at a 4.5 million forward, and none of them are going to be regular starters, just to get one that's a little bit lower owned. So there you go. That's 6 players plus 9 bonus ones. Who are you avoiding for game week 1? Is there anyone else on this list that I haven't mentioned that you think should be included? If so, leave a comment below. Make sure to check out Fantasy Football Hub if you haven't already. Link in the description below, and I'll catch you again tomorrow for another video.